Yeah, definitely the defense there was pretty good, but also pretty good on Flashpoint Wolves. There was a part where they were trying to siege a Phoenix, and there was no kills, actually. They were able to defend pretty effectively. And especially in the late game, that's what matters the most. It's being able to defend, make calls. But where do you think Flashpoint Wolves is really just faltering? Beyond the picks, beyond that, like the early game, how is their play style figuring out?
I think Delnyy had a good job on the Xing Chen. The playstyle was trying to limit the late game damage from Griffon on the Ram. So you pick the Xing Chen, you Furious Roar on top of the Hunter, whatever it is. But I don't think he had that many instances because the rest of his team kept collapsing. The backline penetration from Layers and Griffon as well on this global pressure. It was really impossible, I think, for Flashpoint to react this game.
And Delnyy did kind of fall behind that game. Wolves got that 2-3 level lead during the mid game, and Delnyy, I mean, he just didn't give it up to Delnyy, and Delnyy stayed far behind. Delnyy couldn't even walk up to the Rama, and the Rama was just beating him down before he even got his 1 and his 2 off.
Is Astral Authority going to be doing anything different? Are they going to change up, kind of like how they changed it up for game 2 and then ended up losing it? Or do you think that we're just going to see early aggression from them?
I think they're just going to stick to their guns. If first pick goes to Flashpoint yet again, if they opt for it, then I'm expecting yet again another Erlang Shen potentially to switch it up because that was a lot of pressure coming from Chapo. And Matt Koiz had a good game on it in game number 2, and I like the fact that he switched from the Geb to the Erlang Shen between games 1 and 2. Now going into game 4, Matt Koiz needs to play something aggressive.
Well, let's see if he is, in fact, going to be picking something aggressive because we are ready for game number 4. Picks and bans, everyone, and we still see the same bans. Why no Janus? Well, I guess because Janus didn't win the game.
Not this time, Kelly, but still had a great impact. It was so much damage coming from Crimson, over 25,000 player damage. He goes 5-1. Like, he was making a lot of plays, but the problem was the rest of his teammates couldn't really dive the backline.
A lot of the plays that I saw were snipes from far away that really couldn't lead into anything else, though.
Yeah, it was because of the early deficit. At that point, Astral was controlling the game objectively with all their Gold Furies.
And it looks like Flashpoint Wolves is going with the first pick of the game. And they go with the Kuzenbo.
Best of 5s always swap out here. Kuzenbo has been obnoxious, I think. The way Wolves was going into the Phoenixes, going unchecked. I don't think he had a single death that last game.
Ooh, Chapo, the passion is coming through right now, but I think this is kind of what they did with game number 3. They're trying to take away what Astral Authority likes, and that doesn't necessarily work out for them.
Yeah, I do think the Kuzenbo was a little bit of a problem last game. You getting a big lead on a god that has so much base damage and it resets his cooldowns when you hit his 2. He's going to get out a lot of damage, and he was able to zone both of the squishies on FP side.
Especially when keegsmate is playing the Musen Cobb that has so much damage over time. Every tick, an instance of damage is ticking the spiked shells further and further, resetting those cooldowns faster, allowing Wolves, that last game at least, to go into the Phoenix and then immediately retreat. So that's why Flashpoint are switching it up in game 4.
2 picks on the side of Astral Authority about to come out here. Nothing just yet.
I would expect Erlang Shen is a must.
They could take away the Janus again from Crim. I don't know if, yeah, right there.
They're hovering over it.
I mean, it's not even really taking it away from Crim when oBoronic did so well on it in game number 1.
And if Astral is going to play aggressive, which they're known for, the Janus will enable it.
And there's the Erlang to follow up. Man, these two already. It already looks like we're going to see the same thing from Astral Authority.
Probably, but covering their option. Jumpahhh likes to dodge G from time to time. And that's a good way to chase the Janus as well. As long as the portal's not too far away from the wall, that Powwow should still be in range to pull him back in.
And there's the Agni we saw from Crimson yesterday. How are you liking this?
It's good because whenever Astral is going to be aggressive coming at you, you can find multiple bomb stuns, but Astral are anticipating that with the Geb shield, playing a little bit safe.
You're shaking your head, Inbound.
I did not want the Geb. You've won both your games you've won. You put Chapo on a high pressure, high kill potential god, and now he's playing a Geb, unless they're going to bring it to Wolves.
Wolves solo lane. That's probably Wolves solo lane, Geb. Keep Erlang Shen here right on top of Chapo. It worked in game 1 on the Naja, worked in game 3 on the Erlang Shen. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Don't fix it. And I mean, we've seen Geb in solo lane. Geb can definitely provide some pressure there.
It's about how you rotate to these team fights. The rollout is so fast in terms of getting into the mid lane. It's about getting more control than your opposition and get between the Cataclysm, between the knock-up. You got late game Peel will be the highest level of the game, so you're getting the most benefit from the Geb shields.
Got an Uller Band coming out from Astral, and Flashpoint Wolves responding with the Ao Kuang once again.
They saw Layers play last time. They don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, I don't know how much I like that ban very much. The Aokwang isn't going to be the early game that FP wants to avoid. Aokwang's going to be there for the late game, and so far it looks like FP is struggling to even get through that early game. The only game they ended up getting to the late game is a comp where Astral drafted for the late game. So maybe picking that, if Astral picks that Aokwang, they can play for that late game and then beat him in that 50-minute banger again.
Would you have preferred a Ratatasker ban there? Because we saw how well they did in the last game.
Yeah, he played really well in the Rat. Banning that Rat again would have been a really good idea too.
Well, they still got a ban left, and same thing with Astral Authority, so we might still be seeing that Ratatasker ban coming out, but just a moment to go. Players taking their time here, and don't really blame them. This could potentially be the last game.
That's true.
For Flashpoint Wolves, and then we got the Jumpahhh ban for Astral.
The best of 5 Astral with already 2 games thus far, as Chiron surprisingly getting banned away. This leads me to believe that an Athena might be picked for Flashpoint and not wanting to deal with that cleanse and allow Kuzenbo to go solo lane.
Oh.
I think it's also because of the dodgy. You don't want to give 2 cleanses into the dodgy and make her basically irrelevant whenever she ults.
Rom coming out once again for Astral.
Griff had a really good game on the Rom last time. He hits snipes with a controller somehow.
Is that right? You would think
That is
something that's a
incredible.
high execution, very hard skill shot to do wouldn't be possible, or it's still possible, but very difficult to do on console, and he did it without any trouble.
Yeah, it was insane.
And
I don't hit him. He does.
Layers with the Ratatasker the last game, paired up with Griffin on the ROM, made it so difficult for Flashpoint to really escape. And I wouldn't be surprised if we still see yet again another Ratatasker. There's still that jungle pick of question, where is it going to be this Erlang Shen? Is it going to be solo, support, or jungle? Geb can still go in the solo lane for Wolves.
Are we just going to see a Jingwei again for a safe pick for Flashpoint Wolves? Or are they going to do something a little bit more aggressive, maybe to handle the dual lane a little bit better?
It's hard to really battle. If it's going to be an Erlang Shen support, it's difficult to battle into that. Artio is still available if they wanted to be aggressive, so you could pick Artio Hachiman.
Already got banned by Astro in
Oh.
the first phase, so.
Never mind.
But they definitely should pick something with pressure here, because that is the way that Astro's been playing, is through the dual lane. I think that Naja that Chapo played, I think Koiz could look to play that. The Fenrir we saw in the PC games could definitely be something looking forward to.
Medusa, though.
I like the Medusa. It gives him that early kill potential, early pressure. The anti-heal is also pretty good into Erlang if he's looking to frontline and get the heal off with his taunt.
The Petrify in the jungle fights is going to be difficult for Astral to like commit all in. If they're going to use that through space and time forward, then expect a random Petrify around a corner.
And Athena would really do a good job here, though, taunting them into that Petrify, into the Agni bombs. You think we're going to see an Athena here?
I think maybe so. That's why the Chiron was banned away. They still have that Kuzenbo potentially go into the solo lane, but there's just a lot of good Guardians out there.
Terra, what does Terra provide that Athena can't?
Well, it's about the global, or sorry, not about the global, but the ultimate rather, that has that damage swing. 5% debuff on their enemy damage, 5% buff on your own damage. The control, like Athena has a taunt, sure, but between a root and a stun, I'm preferring the Terra.
That 5v5 teamfight of FPs is scary good.
Yeah.
There is so much damage, so much control, so much like defense from the Terra ult.
Yeah,
It is
sustained.
Very, very good.
And as long as Jump is patient, right? Like allow the Terra, allow the Kuzenbo to go into the backline, and then once the purification beads are done, once the Mad Guy's cloaks are popped, that's when Dodgy's truly gonna thrive.
All right, how do you want Astral Authority, though, to round out their team if they're going to try and take this 3-0?
Ratatasker, just
I want the Rat again, too.
put it onto Layers. Him and Griffin had a good job, basically making it difficult, I think, for keegsmate and also Crimson to really escape.
That doesn't sound like a rat. That sounds like a dog. That's a Fenrir pick right there.
That is indeed a Fenrir pick, so it's still a question of where this Fenrir, Erlang, and Geb are all going to go. Probably leaning towards Geb's support now with this although
Really?
Fenrir support.
Fenrir support, Geb solo, Erlang jungle.
Huh.
Layers loves Erlang. I know Chapo likes the pressure, so the Fenrir is good, and then Wolves, I guess, can play anything, so give him Geb.
Well, looking at these two teams, is this something like what we're going to see in games 1 and 3, where it's just the early aggression, so much happening at the start, or is this going to be making it to the late game?
I think Astral are definitely going to group up S5 and try to go for that fight with a Fenrir, with an Erlang. They need to do that, but I don't think Flashpoint are going to fall victim to that for 3 times in a row from games 1 and 3 into game 4. But if it gets to the late game and team fights, I like Flashpoint's draft a little bit more, but Astral are probably not going to allow that to get to the late game. They're going to want to group up early and mid.
Yeah, just don't group. Please don't group. Just play for the late game. Just don't group. That's basically all it is.
I mean, and Flashpoint definitely has great awareness. It's not. It's just that early game. What is it that keeps getting them caught out?
it's about the picks from Astral that enable them, like the Naja support, the Erlang support, and now it's probably going to be a Fenrir support.
Well, really quick, who's got this?
I like Astral's comp.
I'm giving it to Astral.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be an interesting game for game number 4. Astral Authority versus Flashpoint Wolves starts now.
Game number 4, championship point now for Astral Authority. If they grab the win here in Flashpoint, have got to fight for their lives to get to a game number 5. And in this game, I have questions about where this Geb is going. I don't know that I'm 100% sold that it's going over to the support role. And what do you know, it's not. The Geb for Wolves, and Chapo takes the aggressive Fenrir.
And the reason why this works so well also is because Chapo and Layers, they've been the main ones as the catalyst of pressure for Astral Authority. It's always been those two simultaneously invading the jungle, looking to harass the carries from Flashpoint. And not only that, but with so much focus having already been prioritized towards mid and duo side, Wolves should be free to just AFK farm on this Geb and solo lane.
And a lot of the priority picks from this set are on the side of Astral. They have the Janus, they have the Erlang Shen. The key difference, though, is that Delnyy is back on that Kuzenbo that he was able to have such a strong performance on before. Delnyy, I feel like, has a lot of pressure on him to have a good laning phase and get involved in these team fights as soon as possible and try and be that oppressive Kuzenbo.
Jumpahhh as well. I mean, at least Flashpoint didn't take the bait this time around. They were expecting that 5-man grouping from Astral Authority, and it's not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination for Astral to just close this set out. Flashpoint are a team that loves bouncing back, and I think this is their prime time to strike.
And they have a chance to try and bounce back. Look at the idea here from Koiz and Keegs. Instead of trying to fight early on, they fall back directly towards their purple buff and give up on the lane pressure. And it does look like it worked out for them. Koiz has the purple buff around their waist, so they're not going to allow Astral to start off this game by getting a bunch of free farm by stealing away their buffs.
That's the way to do it, though, if you're a Flashpoint, because the last thing you want to see is Chapo and Griffin being allowed to snowball this dual lane one more time. Because if that takes place, the Terra will probably not be able to thrive in that sort of environment.
No, it's not going to be easy at all for Koiz if he ends up falling behind. So they're doing their best trying to defend their buffs and try and remain relevant. As Layers is rather pushed forward, and Jumpahhh is able to use the dodgy aggressively to bring him down to half HP, and there is no answer back from oBoronic. So a small win, I would say, here in this middle lane in favor of Crimson and Jumpahhh.
And of course, you can never count anything out when it comes to the mid-jungle synergy between Flashpoint and Astral Authority's mid and jungler. I think that's where a lot of the action has also really been taking place, because Flashpoint, while they've had their moments, I definitely think that Layers and oBoronic have been just a little bit more consistent.
Yeah, Layers and oBoronic have looked great in their mid-jungle synergy, and that's what you got to worry about if you're on Flashpoint. How do you slow that down? This game, he's on the Janus. It's going to be that much harder. Layers on the Erlang Shen, which has been dominant so far. It's going to be a difficult task if you're Flashpoint, trying to stop them from having the type of impact they normally have.
Delnyy could also encounter some difficulties, though, up against this Geb. Kuzenbo can sometimes be a lane bully in certain matchups, but this one might be a little bit too passive for him to handle. Chapo, all the while, Brutalize gets some good poke here onto keegsmate, forces out the beats preemptively. Nice recognition from Keegs to expect the Unchanged shortly after the Brutalize, but even better from Chapo to force them out to begin with.
That's right, a nice play by him jumping forward and forcing them out, but keegsmate, as aware as always, is able to stay alive. And this is another one that's important. They need Keegs to be able to stay relevant in this matchup and not fall behind Griffin right away. Last game we saw how impactful those snipes were out from Griffin. They need keegsmate to be similarly as oppressive on this Medusa.
And of course, Keegs wants to have that sort of impact with the Medusa petrifies, but that'll be the idea here, is just find those ultimates in the late game. But Chapo might have been up a little bit more than he could chew here. In some danger, Crimson looking for the stun, will connect, forces out the shell, but now Griffin's gonna have to roll away, and Chapo should be out of there also.
It's the shell that really did it. He still had the Brutalize available to jump. He used the Unchained early on to try and defend the actual buff, and that was the secure he wanted to use to make sure that they got it, and that meant that he was in a little bit more trouble. But Crimson couldn't get in range for the Flame Wave damage, just the stun, and I think that might have been the very key difference there.
30 stacks already with that Guardian's Blessing and climbing, and the tankiness is only building up. Interesting to note, though, that this is the game where Keegs is opting straight away into that Transcendence start. And with it, he did have a lot of health potions, so probably went for this route, wanting the 3 health pots, so that way he could try and make up for whatever poke damage he took out of Chapo.
And that is a good call from him because there's been aggression in this duo lane all set long. So getting those potions to try and help him sustain up and make sure he can stay in this set, or rather in the lane, not get forced back and end up falling behind early on was a good call. Though Transcendence can feel a little bit slow, once he has it online, he'll certainly be swinging. But the fact that he's already made it this far should be a good sign for their chances here in the lane.
Still about 45 more seconds until Keeks has his purification beads up and running again. And of course, look who's coming straight out of the jungle. It's Chapo. He's got those runes stacked most likely and is just trying to see if he can get another jump stun connected.
Can't find Matt Koiz, who does a good job using that monolith to juke around, and you can even hear a little bit of laughing as they know they can't find him. In fact, it's Jumpahhh who's making the rotation. Remember, he is on the dodge this time, so he'll have the powwow to try and pull them back in, but Griffin and Chapo have fallen back. They must have recognized that there's some extra help coming.
The dodge pickup is interesting because it feels like more of a direct call out towards Layers on this Erlang, because Layers is the only one on Astral Authority who does not have a CC immune ultimate that's a great taunt, and that can be a multi-taunt even, but you don't get any immunity frames during it or anything of that sort. So it'd be very easy for Jumpahhh to rush up into the powwow and then look to pull Layers out of position early on, which is why we see this Erlang rolling with beads in the first place over the typically picked up blink.
Gonna need an extra safety factor to try and stay away, so we'll see if he's able to use that to get away from some of this aggression. But this is already good news, I feel like, if you're Flashpoint, that the early game isn't out of control right away as it has been in games 1 and 3, the ones that Astral have won. So far, you've looked good in these long, drawn-out matches. The 50-minute win they got in game 2. Try and get your conditions as close to that and see if you can find one more win there.
Of course, you can never count anything out when it comes to Flashpoint, though. Astral Authority, they have plenty of win conditions, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're all going to pan out evenly for them. I like that Crimson switching it up to the Agni, however, because Janus has a lot of escapability, but that doesn't necessarily mean he has heavy survivability. As we saw last game, Crimson had a lot of issues getting away from those Rom Snipes and everything else that was chasing after him.
Jumpahhh could be in a bit of trouble, though. He gets taunted back in. He does make it up onto the powwow, and now a chance to turn things back around to Layers, but a big heal coming up from the 9 turns Blessing, and Chapo right there for the follow-up, but inside the Ragnarok, he can't keep up, and just barely Jumpahhh is able to make it back out.
Actually looked like Chapo might have lost sight of which way Jumpahhh actually rolled out from the powwow. Had he realized which direction that Jumpahhh had originally been headed, he might have been able to just kill him with the Ragnarok damage straight up.
Narrowly avoiding the stun was Layers, able to get out through that turtle form and able to make it back towards safety, but very crucial that Jumpahhh was able to survive there in the jungle. Anything you can do to try and get this team closer to that mid-game stage, get out of this laning phase where Astral has been able to out-rotate you, been able to outplay in the 2v2s and the 1v1s, get to the point where you can have those 5-on-5 fights on even footing has got to be the only thing on Flashpoint's mind right now.
Well, things are definitely even so far between the two teams. Mild goal lead in favor of Astral Authority just from a little bit of more efficient farming out of their team, but Jumpahhh still not looking to give things up that easily. This dodge pickup is fairly risky in the early game, though, because of what we mentioned earlier, with only Layers being the most susceptible member to that powwow ultimate. I think Jumpahhh will have some issues with his own positioning in this match.
And sometimes we even see the Dodgees like to go for the blink because you can be up on the powwow so long that it gives you that option to blink out once you drop back down if you don't hit anyone with the chains and stay out of combat. So without that option, there, ironically, there might not be as much safety. Jumpahhh will have to be very careful about how he uses those trickster spirits and where he lands on the back end of those powwows to make sure he's not the one that ends up getting punished or caught out by Chapo or oBoronic or Griffin.
Keegsmate and Griffin, actually a 2-level disparity between these two hunters already built up. Chapo going in though, Unchained is good on Matt Koiz, but the Unstable Vortex follow-up is not. Now Chapo is vulnerable. If he gets hit by the powwow, he's certainly getting pulled in.
And he certainly has been. That's going to be the first blood for Crimson, thanks to Jumpahhh pulling him back in with the chains, and Astral Authority on the back foot once again. A good job from Flashpoint starting out strong, but they're not done yet. They want to start something with Layers as well, who's already used the 9 turns Blessing, has a heal coming, and Jumpahhh will chase with the Trickster Spirit, but can't find anything more.
Astral Authority, we're just expecting that to go a little bit smoother here, but without the Unstable Vortex damage to follow up the Ragnarok, there's just no possible way for Astral to come out on top there, and now Crimson getting even more damage out onto Griffin.
The pin does land, and that's why we see Griffin going up into the air looking for the snipes, but he gives up on it. He just doesn't have enough vision to be able to follow them any further and land the rest of those shots, so he is going to go back to trying to farm up. And finally, a nice, clean fight in the early game for Flashpoint. Like you said, it starts with with them not being able to complete the damage, but the Gold Fury, what is this Flashpoint? They're not around. This should be free for Astral.
That's why Griffin gave up on that Astral Barrage right away. It seemed like he was giving up because he knew the second shot not connecting meant the third wouldn't be enough to kill them, but Flashpoint had the back, and at 9 minutes, the first Gold Fury is going to go down in favor of Astral Authority.
And that has to be a bit of heartbreak if you're a Flashpoint fan, that they finally show a good fight in the early game and then a bit of a lapse in judgment when everyone backs, and that means the Gold Fury free there for Astral Authority as they recognize no one else was around, so that puts the gold right back in their favor.
Delnyy and Wolves still doing the same old soul laner thing that you'd expect to see time and time again. This matchup, just not a whole lot that can happen between these two. Kuzenbo and Geb, neither side really favored in having any sort of kill potential there. But I think that Chapo has now realized he can't just be reckless with these Unchains. Despite being able to find a good jump stun into the Ragnarok, it's still not the wisest decision to make if he can tell that there's going to be 2 or 3 members close in the vicinity.
Been impressive so far from Astral throughout this set. 2-1 now with a chance to take themselves into the, not just into the finals, but to win the entire tournament right here. But not if Chapo ends up gifting his life away. Jumpahhh follows him, a good knock-up and taunt coming out from Layers, but the chains are there. Ragnarok gives him the cleanse so he won't get pulled back in, and yet again, Chapo skates by the skin of his teeth.
But that's all that Chapo was waiting for. 2 ults for the price of 3. Make that 4. Well, Delnyy doesn't really count, though. He's just clearing the wave with the Watery Grave. But Jumpahhh, Koiz, and Keeks, we're all looking to try and bring Chapo down one more time. They're trying to prevent the snowball factor from ever taking place on this Fenrir support, and that is the right mentality to be in, because every single time that Chapo has gotten ahead of Koiz, we have seen Chapo and Layers run this map.
Chapo yet again able to barely escape by and make it out. But Taco, I'm curious about the impact these solo laners could potentially have in the late game. I know that this Kuzenbo has been the deciding factor, it's felt like in a lot of matches, but how, I mean, Wolves is on this Geb, he's so big when you get to a late game fight and you have those shields, the knockups, and the Cataclysm.
If it was any other Guardian but Geb, oh, hold that thought though, Finch, because I don't think we're going to have a chance to break into it just yet. Delnyy actually forced a retreat, successful invade between Wolves and Layers, and getting back to what I was just about to address, it's just that any other Guardian except the Geb, this would be a good matchup for the Kuzenbo. But because it's a Geb, you have all this disturbance that Delnyy is going to be able to provide, but it's going to be for not 9 times out of 10, simply because Wolves has those cleanses with the Geb shields. He has so much peel, the Cataclysm even going to be able to put in some solid damage. You've also got that knockup that Geb can utilize to his advantages. It's just so hard, I think, for any single target member or any single target strategy from Flashpoint to really work out.
And that's why I think there's a lot of pressure on Jumpahhh, right? Because you've got to think that the Palau value is going to drop dramatically once Wolves starts being more involved in these fights. Whoever it is that doesn't have beads or doesn't have an ult, or whoever's the target, they just have to call for that Geb shield from Wolves to give them that cleanse to get them away. And Jumpahhh so far hasn't been able to find a ton off this Janus. I feel like it's just going to be slowly meaningless the closer we get to Wolves being a big part of these fights.
There does need to be very clear communication, though, on the side of Astral Authority if they truly want this Geb pick to work out, specifically against the Janus, but definitely against Delnyy. I don't want to see any Geb shields onto the same targets who also then panic push onto the purification beats.
Right.
We saw a couple instances of that the other day, I believe, in that Splice set on PC.
There's gonna need to be some trust here between these teams, or like you said, just good communication. And you can trust that with Chapo on the team, they'll certainly be talking about something at the very least Smite related. They just got to make sure that they're able to cleanly get that communicated during a fight as he jumps in, finds the Unchained stun and the Ragnarok follow-up to force out the beats from Crimson, but that might not even be enough. Layers had the taunt afterwards, through space and time, does not land, and Griffin barely gets away from all 3 chains, and now it's Jumpahhh that could be in trouble in early beads, but no, they switch their target focus to Keegs. Jumpahhh still isolated on the back, and the first kill for Astral comes out thanks to Chapo.
Jumpahhh just had nowhere left to run, not a single teammate in sight that he could possibly try and utilize the Trickster Spirit for an escape, and not only that, but Wolves also blinked right out in front of him, so whichever way he decided to run, Wolves is going to look for the cutoff.
And and be there to stop him. Another good fight from Astral Authority, and that wasn't even so much around the clans. That was around the 1v1 between Jumpahhh and Gryphon on the backside of the fight, which ends up going relatively even. Somehow Gryphon was able to avoid those chains coming down from the powwow. That's what was so key to at least prevent that from being a 1-for-1.
Wolves, one more time though, gonna make his way back over to the solo lane, and it's to be expected. He does a couple of early rotations wherever he can, because he knows that Delnyy on this Kuzenbo as a Guardian, gonna take him forever to try and bring down his T1 tower.
Now it should be fine over here. These two are of no true threat to one another, so they'll just trade out a little bit of a few blows. Astral not going to be able to be here for the red buff invade, a strategy they were able to use very well in games 1 and 3, but Flashpoint have done a better job holding on to their jungle. So the lead stays small for Astral. They're not tremendously out in front. A little bit of the Gold Fury, a little bit of being able to strip away a camp or two there, but Flashpoint very much still in this.
Wolves still also looking to just take away as much of Jumpahh's jungle as possible. He knows that Jumpahh's over in that left-hand side because Jumpahhh was just spotted out by minions, so he's got more than enough time to bring down those back harpies. Not only that, but he's also forcing Delnyy to pull away from his T1 tower. All of that damage that's happened against that solo T1 has been from the creep waves.
Earned it, but Chapo lurking around the jungle. He jumps forward. He doesn't want Koiz. He wants Jumpahhh, who goes right into the powwow in response. But again, none of the chains can land. Great jukes from Astral all game long, and Jumpahh's not been able to hit home on enough of these chains. And so again, Astral able to walk away scot-free.
I'm actually curious to see what Chapo might be leveling. I'm almost wondering if he might be upgrading that Seething Howl to get a little bit more lifesteal, a little bit more pressure poke on this Fenrir. But of course, that's just something we'll have to ask the players later on, because there is a little bit of player preference involved. I know Inbound was actually talking with me about it the other day on this Fenrir. The big thing is to win those boxing trades. And so if you have that upgraded second ability on Fenrir, you can afford to exchange blows and still come out on top.
But more of the minutiae of what exactly makes this Fenrir pick work so well. One more thing I was also noticing, Jumpahhh electing for this Brawler's Beat Stick early on. I got to imagine that's trying to cut out some of this healing from the Erlang Shen. That 9 turns blessing heal on the back end can be so potent for getting him out of those tight spots.
Keegsmate, though, might have been looking towards that Gold Fury, but pressure in the mid lane onto Crimson. No beats so far for Chapo. He does eat a little bit of his dot damage, though, out of that flame path. Pretty dangerous stuff here to mess with Crimson, too, when Chapo's 4 levels underneath him.
But very brave from Crimson to hold on. He didn't feel under any threat to use any of the relics in that situation. So Chapo not quite achieving what they needed from this Fenrir support early on. But in this slow-paced game, if you remember Game 2, you have to be feeling good about Flashpoint. They're going to have a ton of control in these fights between Koiz, Crimson, and Delnyy. They're going to have beads, pullers from Jumpahhh, and Keeks for plenty of damage. Right now, Flashpoint, I think, have got to be feeling good.
Flashpoint are definitely feeling really good right now. This gold lead just keeps building and building, the same for experience, and yet it doesn't seem like much of anything has happened at all. There's only been a couple of bot picks on both sides, and even then, neither side has really felt all that comfortable. It was just that first Gold Fury that I think really broke things open for Astral.
A bit of posturing around the Gold Fury from Astral Authority, but they don't go all in on trying to pull that. They're trying to force Flashpoint into a bad engagement, but they will not bite. A bit surprised by the Geb Shield there from Wolves, expecting some more damage to come through, but nothing there. And that might be an opportunity for Flashpoint to fight for a little while, knowing that key cooldown's down for a few more seconds.
Jumpahhh and Koiz going to make sure to remove that Sentry Ward from the Gold Fury. Now, Wolves could be in a little bit of danger here, spotting out 3 different members from Flashpoint's more than enough to get him to back off, though. But it's Flashpoint who are actually looking to take initiative on this next Gold Fury.
Well, it's certainly no secret Astral Authority are right here, and they're going to trust Crimson to be the secure if it comes to that, though oBoronic will have a bit to say with his own ultimate as they make keegsmate the target. He has immediately the Petrify, and it's Chapo who ends up low. keegsmate able to burn him down right up onto the powwow. Goes Jumpahhh to try and pull someone back in, and he is absolutely able to find Wolves. The Geb not able to save himself, and Jumpahhh finds the kill. 2 quick ones for Flashpoint, and now they can pull the gold.
Too much from the front line without any sort of follow-up, and that means disaster for Astral Authority here, because those 2 picks definitely made it all that much easier for Flashpoint to try and bring down this Gold Fury.
And Gold Fury certainly will be there. It's a well-earned Gold Fury for Flashpoint, as well as they win that fight inside the Gold Fury pit. Astral that time a bit confused about where exactly to go, and as you said, it was the frontliners that get forced too far back in, and they don't have the same good poke that they've had before.
This is even better though. Layers, there's a reason why that fight seems so one-sided. He wasn't even there. He was pretty much on the opposite side of the map, but that split push could not have been better timed because despite losing the Gold Fury and that all that map pressure having been normally would have been alleviated from the duo side, Layers brings it right back again by taking down the T2. He brings back the gold lead for Astral Authority as well. And I'd rather have a T2 over a Gold Fury because having that part of the map wide open means that there's no escape route there.
Especially if it's fights around the Pyromancer or the Fire Giant. You're absolutely right, Taco. That's a huge fight, or rather a huge win that Layers able to provide for Astral Authority by finding that tier 2 tower and opening up the path. And remember, Wolves had made that job relatively easy with so much pressure onto the tier 1 tower early on that was mostly minion-based, and Layers comes in to complete the job. Now Flashpoint have to make sure, even when they think they're winning a fight, that they're not giving up too much on the back end of it going forward.
Koiz gonna get spotted out, but it's oBoronic who's under fire from Jumpahhh. Trickster Spirit and the Thousand Bladed Claws are gonna do some pretty damage to oBoronic. Half health at least, gonna send him back to base for now. So Ward Vision will be established in favor of Flashpoint around those aggressive choke points coming into the Fire Giant pit.
But this is something we see all the time in these elimination games, the clinching games, where teams start to slow things down and try and play a little bit more calculated, a little bit more cautious. Up until now, though, the aggression has been entirely Astral Authority. Is that what you want to see more of? Does Astral need to be the one that's trying to force these fights, or are they okay with the slower pace like Flashpoint?
In a sense, Astral kind of have to force the early fights if they want to make this Fenrir pick viable for their team. But Chapo's just kind of struggled with because of all the area damage that Crimson's able to provide. Not only that, but keegsmate with the Petrify is so annoying. Jumpahhh already forced into the Palau ultimate though. That's a really early burnout of a pretty big team fighting ult.
Trickster Spirit used Jumpahhh trying his best to get out of the fight on the back end, though. Delnyy has a target all his own. The Watery Grave looking for oBoronic. He'll have to disengage because everyone from Astral comes back, but that does mean Wolves now left a bit alone on the front line, pushed right back in. Earth and Fury gonna come out from Koiz as well, but it's oBoronic with the through space and time that rips right through the fight and puts out a ton of damage. They find their first kill onto the Terra, and they want Delnyy as well. He does put out the turtle, but the jump over the wall from Chapo finds one more, and 2 kills, but get 2 kills. It's Astral pushing forward.
That 4-man Cataclysm from Wolves, everybody just piling up inside of that left mid Harpy section. All too perfect. 4-man Cataclysm into the through space in time. So much damage right away, and with those 2 picks, Astral Authority,
Whoa.
they're not going to be able to push in. keegsmate gets a huge kill onto Griffin.
That's a ton of damage on the backside coming up from Keegs. They blow up Griffin, and now disarray for Astral Authority. Chapo start running away as well. A great defense from FP on the order side as they manage to defend their tier 2 in mid.
Definitely was not expecting Astral Authority to be met with such an abrupt halt, but keegsmate is just here to deliver. He is not looking to go down in 3-1 fashion against Astral Authority, and I can't blame him. I know how much tension there is between these 2 teams.
Well, look how much power he has in the build. Transcendence is now finished into the Bloodforge right after the boots. That's about as much power as you can get from physical items at this point in the game. So Flashpoint have a ton of damage coming out from their Hunter, from the Medusa and the Hunter role. And I think that's why we saw Griffin evaporate near that tier 2 tower.
Gotta have a little bit more respect for Keys' itemization choices. The second that you see that Bloodforge, you've gotta know a little bit better than to get too close to get bitten, and that's the thing. keegsmate is someone who knows how to land his skill shots.
He absolutely does. Pyromancer's now the one that's under siege, and the siege is now over. Astral have grabbed the Pyromancer before Flashpoint can even try and mount a defense. The shield is good from coming out from Wolves, and he's able to fall back as well, and that should be all she wrote, though Chapo could be in a little bit of trouble with Koiz, Delnyy, Crimson, and the whole team right here lurking nearby. They want to bully down the tier 1 tower, and they have the opportunity. Keegs comes in, and Keegs forces it down.
Keegs forces it down, so tower for tower, a little bit of a response, a little bit of a resurrection of Flashpoint, if you ask me, because that left mid Harpy fight looked pretty grim there, and it could have been a little bit of a mental blow yet again, especially since Game 3 was so dominating for Astral Authority. But of course, Flashpoint never wants to be counted out. They are looking to answer back every way possible.
And you said it up here after that Game 3 where it looked a little bit like Flashpoint might have some mental troubles after that loss, though they are trying to pull this Gold Fury, and it's up to Astral to get in and push them off, and it's just enough from Griffin and oBoronic showing up. Flashpoint don't actually want the fight, they wanted to steal, and they'll find nothing there But the mental state of Flashpoint's got to be the most important thing here. Are they still communicating effectively? Are they still 100% in as Gold Fury dropped from Astral?
Wolves doesn't have his shield, and he took a pretty chunk of his health out of those Viper shots from Keegs. Well placed onto the right targets. The second that Wolves shields any single member of Astral Authority, whether it's himself, Layers, oBoronic, whoever, doesn't matter. Flashpoint have to just hard commit to anybody else who doesn't have it.
He has to be so patient with the shields as Chapo goes aggressive. They want Keegs and they stick right to him. The Petrify does find one stun, but it does not save his life. Through space and time comes through too, but doesn't find much. And Jumpahhh now the center of attention up on the Palau. He's gonna try and run, but Griffin rolls right in to try for the follow-up. The body blocks mean Jumpahhh actually is stuck too close to everyone else. The knockup's coming out as well from the Erlang. Shen and oBoronic finds one more.
2-for-0 exchange so far in Astral Authority's favor, and this is everything that Astral Authority wanted, because now they can bring down the final standing T1 tower over here in duo. 4 is better than 1, and only 1 left here to play defense is Crimson. Can he do it again? I'm not sure that he wants to bother trying, because if he goes down, so does that T2.
The tier 1 tower will certainly be a distant memory. That's good damage from Crimson, sure, but nowhere near enough to defend the structure, so instead Astral will fall back into the jungle. They still have a chance at this Gold Fury, which it looks like will certainly be under siege, but what a big fight. That starts with Chapo jumping in on the left-hand side and getting everything going.
The target focus is what really matters here. Keegs, for the past few fights, has been left unscathed, and that's just not acceptable here. So Astral Authority looking to rectify their wrongs, just jump on him right away. Don't give him any options. They forced out the Purification Bees. They forced out the Petrify. There was really nothing more that Keegs could have possibly done in that situation.
He played it about as well as you can expect, and he actually gets the Petrify and even finds a stun. Unfortunately, I believe it's just on the Wolves way in the back line, functionally irrelevant in terms of keeping him alive, and he ends up taking a spill. And without all that damage that we saw blow up Griffin earlier, there really wasn't much trouble for Astral to continue their push on the left-hand side. And don't let the 5 to 4 kills confuse you. Astral are very much out in front right now here in this game. They've got nearly 6,000 gold to their name, and that's why they're starting this push onto the Fire Giant. They want to force Flashpoint to a bad fight. It's Delnyy. They pull back in.
They pull Delnyy straight into the heart of the Fire Giant pit, and Watery Grave Thorn's gonna all be popped at the exact same time. 2 pretty big team fighting capabilities that he had in his name, and now no longer. Crimson, though, has made the rotation back from base, gonna get some nice bomb damage there onto Wolves, but Wolves does have his teleport available still, so he'll be able to come back no problem.
Though it is something for Flashpoint that the Fire Giant was at least stopped, whether or not Astral were all that serious about really committing to it. They don't lose anybody, any lives, and they also don't lose the objective, so now Astral have to fall back and rethink about how they want to engage. But remember, again, Astral are the ones that are out in front. That's why they're the ones forcing the fights, and Keegs is the target. Unchained lands for the stun, Griffin there for the follow-up, but Aegis is good enough. oBoronic eventually is gonna bring down the Hunter, and on the backside, Layers is looking for Crimson. He hunts him down. Even with Jumpahhh there, the 2v1 favors Layers.
But that's the problem. Griffin's gonna bring down Koiz in the front side. Delnyy still on the run. He'll be able to run away thanks to that sumo slam, but still, Jumpahhh all the way behind everybody else. I don't know if they have enough damage to prevent this Fire Giant from happening, but Astral's got even more on the mind because they want this Phoenix.
And remember, this is all opened up by Layers, who finds the tier 2 tower earlier in exchange for the Gold Fury. Now 1 fight with 3 kills, and it means they can open up the door to the Phoenix, and Astral Authority are gonna barrel right on through. Right side, Firebird comes tumbling down, and Astral have opened up a win condition, a path right through to the Titan.
And with the way these past couple of team fight engagements have gone, Finch, I'm not sure Flashpoint are feeling all that comfortable right now.
Oh, Delnyy
gonna take the trap. He went not expecting the entire 5-man grouping out of Astral Authority. Doesn't even get a chance to proc that Watery Grave. He's already met his own.
And that's something that just cannot happen on a World's final stage, where you take the bait, chasing the team back into the jungle. Chapo jumps back in, and an easy kill for Astral. They'll add the Pyromancer on top of the Phoenix on the solo lane side, and now firmly the game in control of Astral. A 10,000 gold lead and doubled up in the kills. Flashpoint barely hanging on.
And here's the problem. Koiz just gave a face check onto Fire Giant, but they're using through space and time to get back there insanely fast, so they're going to go straight onto this objective immediately.
Man, Astral really have pulled out all the stops here. They've just looked like the better team all set long, and Flashpoint don't have a way back into the pit. What a great call on this through space and time. They fool Flashpoint one more time and grab the the objective for themselves, and they still have a couple tier 2 towers to grab and some more gold to add. This lead's not big enough for Astral yet.
The doubts might be starting to trickle in here for Flashpoint. Can
Absolutely.
we really pull this off? The mental aspects are what we really have to start looking at for some of these players.
A year of struggles, Taco, ups and downs. The console format's gone through a lot of changes. It's not been the easiest path for some of these players, and all that work now culminating right here in this moment where they have to find a way to try and defend their base up against Astral Authority, who up to this point have looked unstoppable.
But we keep switching through player cams, and there's hardly anybody talking on the side of Flashpoint. Jumpahhh is the first time I've seen anybody's mouth even start to move.
At this point, you gotta hope the communication's still there from Flashpoint. That's the only way they're gonna be able to find a chance to stay in this game up against Astral. They have such a tremendous advantage in every relevant metric, though it looks like they have put on the brakes, at least for now. They've backed, they're spending their gold, finishing off some key items. You can see Layers has gone with a nice hybrid build with the stone-cutting Masamune on Kile and the Void Shield. He's still putting out relevant damage, but also not gonna be easy to kill.
Layers knows that he's just trying to be in the center of attention, because if he's able to distract on one end, then Chapo and Wolves will be able to have free reign everywhere else, and that seems to be the strategy that works out best, because oBoronic will then have more than enough time to just think about where he wants to place these through space and times, because sometimes they've been very strategic in their utilization. For example, that last Fire Giant play that they just made sure that the through space and time helped them out with, but also the damage is sure to have built up by this stage, because he's practically full build now.
Mid-tier tower's fallen down, Taco. Mid-tier 1 gonna be the next, or mid-tier 2 rather, gonna be the call on left side. And it looks like Flashpoint at least want to be nearby for the defense. This is certainly risky if they go for an actual defense on this tier 2 tower.
Seems like Flashpoint are curious to see whether or not they'd be able to put out any relevant damage. Delnyy so far, the only one eating up any of it. Good stuns from Crimson, gonna buy his soul lane or a little bit more time to get away. Same thing for Jumpahhh, couldn't take that 1v1 exchange with Layers, but now Layers knows he's free to push in on the mid wave while everybody else is distracted on the left-hand side.
No surprise, we saw the full decommit there from Flashpoint on the left-hand side. They could not stay in that fight, but Chapo wants the fight to keep going. Stun lands on Delnyy. He wants Keegs, but finds nothing. The team doesn't get much damage onto the Phoenix, and they'll fall back for now, but they're ready to resurge right back in. It's Wolves slowly walking up and trying to force everyone back. Phoenix has already been brought incredibly low, but the blink in from Jumpahhh immediately countered by Layers with a knockup. They don't get the Phoenix, but that fight looks strong, and Griffin wants the snipes, but can't find him. Jumpahhh lives.
Jumpahhh just a little bit too swift with that speed buff dodge G, able to get on out of there, but that doesn't mean that the rest of his team is safe and sound, and neither is that left-hand Phoenix, because that's going to end up falling. Second Firebird of the game for Astral.
Yeah, inch by inch, slowly, bit by bit, Astral are clawing their way towards that trophy, clawing their way towards the title, and being the world's best here on console right now for Astral Authority. And Flashpoint, the only thing standing in their way. They've got 2 more Phoenixes, and look at the right side. This is the one that's already been weakened, and Astral want to come right back over to it and take it down too.
It just respawned, and I don't think Astral Authority are giving it any sort of chances to get back to half health even. They want this last, or the second Phoenix right away. That way they begin to threaten the mid lane. Look at Chapo zoning away 3 different members right now from Flashpoint.
He knows he still had the shield coming out from Wolves. He grabs Jumpahhh, and that forces out his beads early on. They can't get the right side Phoenix, but they do force them back right up onto the Pala from Jumpahhh, but he gets no one with the pull either, and Astral able to stay very comfortable.
The Phoenix has remained untouched for now. Astral Authority have encountered a couple of struggles here with trying to breach the base. Mid Phoenix has taken a little bit of poke too, but Layers, look at that health drop.
That's a lot of damage coming up from Crimson. It's late game, and the Agni level 20 and nearly full build is certainly still swinging. Astral still have a little bit of time. No, they don't. The Fire Giant buff has just fallen off, so on this push, they'll just be relying on their lead, but Jumpahhh has to defend minions.
Crimson just used his dash to get back to the right side Phoenix quicker after dropping a bomb onto the Fire minions to clear things out a little bit faster. Had Astral Authority actually known that, I think we might have seen them continue aggressing, but they'd rather play it safe over sorry, so they're going to fall back for now since the Fire Giant buff just wore off.
This is their chance to fall back, and they're going to wait more time. Let's see if Delnyy wants to bite for the bait. Once again, it's Crimson who's nearby, but I think he recognizes that this could potentially be death for him. Jumpahhh is nearby, though, so it's not just one this time as Chapo jumps in but can't find him.
Chapo will end up losing that Mad Guy's Cloak proc, though, that he'd been saving. Crimson knew better, and Jumpahhh, I love that from him, by the way. He spots out and lets his mid laner know, hey, they're definitely waiting around just like they did for Delnyy. Don't go up any further and just run back right now. And then Jumpahhh just backs because he knows that Astral Authority are looking forward. No one's checking what's behind them.
But it is a small victory compared to how much Astral's been able to grab in that last push. The left side Phoenix down, the right Phoenix grabbed long ago, and it is in that weakened state. Only the mid Phoenix is at full strength, and Fire Giant now back on the map. Astral can go grab it at any time, and they're still enjoying a rather significant lead in terms of gold. The experience less relevant. It really only matters for Koiz, who's significantly behind about 3 levels Chapo. But other than that, everything else is basically even level-wise.
Fire Giant should go down at Astral Authority in no time at all pretty soon here. The problem for Flashpoint is just that left Phoenix being so exposed. They've been successful a couple of times now with pushing the creep waves out in their favor, but it doesn't last for long. Those firemen is just a little bit too powerful for Flashpoint to keep that lane safe. So Astral Authority know that because of the constant threat of those fire waves, they should continue to apply pressure onto this right side Phoenix. They need to keep Flashpoint spread as thin as possible because that's where the mistakes start to happen.
You're exactly right. Right side Phoenix is going to be the call from Astral Authority. They're right back here with Fire Giant on everyone. And Flashpoint now with their tournament lives on the line have to find a way to slow them down and not let them break this line, not let them break through these defenses and find a way in. The wall does hit Wolves and slow him down for a moment. And Layers is very far back. They might still be waiting a little bit longer before they jump in.
Astral Authority here. They're not looking to get cold feet though by any means. They're just looking for the right time to strike. Plan your moments and execute them appropriately. One wave of fire minions already starting to go in. Someone is going to have to go pay mind to it. Crimson going to be the first to dash in, trying to make sure that this Titan takes as little damage as possible, but that means go for Astral Authority.
Yeah, that was all Chapo needed to see to start looking for Jump on the left-hand side. He does find him and keep him busy. Petrify coming through, but no stuns are going to land. Jumpo must have rectified that by going up onto the powwow, and he is able to at least pull in one. Earth and Fury there immediately in response, but through space and time means the rest of Astral can surge forward, and the first one that hits home is Griffin. He takes out Delnyy early on.
And all the while, Astral Authority still kind of get what they were looking for to begin with, because that left side Phoenix also did wind up falling to the fire minions. Crimson couldn't play defense for long enough, and because of that, Astral now going to back off for a little bit here. Layers in some trouble, but a nice portal from oBoronic going to save him, but it's only temporary.
Crimson waiting for him right there on the back end. The bomb on the other side of the portal read the play from start to end and was able to at least take down Layers. It's 1-for-1 now. Delnyy for Layers, but it's 50 seconds before the Erlang Shen will be back.
Astral Authority, though, they still feel pretty comfortable with trying to push in on this right-hand side. They know that with Delnyy missing, Layers isn't as bad. It's a 4-for-4 right now matchup that they're looking for.
They only need a little bit of space, though, for Griffin to move in. He can burn down this Phoenix. You can see him putting in the work in the right side. Firebird indeed will go down. It's just the one in mid lane that Astral have to worry about, but this is good signs of life from Flashpoint. I know they're still bleeding. I know they're still injured, but they found ways to keep themselves alive.
But this is what Astral are also looking for out of Flashpoint. They want to make Flashpoint bleed. They want to make them start to second guess whether or not they're going to actually be able to hold on for dear life here in this fourth match, because with those two Phoenixes down, all attention is dead center for now, and Astral Authority still have a solid minute on this Fire Giant buff before it wears off.
How can Flashpoint remain calm? How can they keep those comms focused is going to be the thing to look at here for Flashpoint if they're going to make this defense happen. So far, they've at least kept themselves from taking a mortal wound, but can they continue to survive taking these smaller wounds over and over again? The question yet remains. 37 minutes and 30 seconds here into this game, and Astral pushing forward like they want to siege again.
Delnyy is back to play defense this time around, though, so that could make a pretty big difference, but I think that Chapo might need to start switching his target focus if he wants to be a little bit more successful with these Ragnaroks. He's done a great job at forcing out the beads from Jumpahhh, but I'm not sure that's really as much of a threat as, say, forcing out relics from Crimson or Keegs.
Wolves has pushed forward and he immediately gets caught out by Delnyy, but he can handle the damage, at least for now. That's Aegis forced out from Crimson. He did not have the beads for that engagement, but they forced Jumpahhh onto the Pala. He's had to use them defensively almost exclusively. He does find one pull, but Astral Authority don't care much for that pull. Instead, they want the damage onto the mid lane. Phoenix is down below half. Wolves is the target, but a two-man stun on the backside from Layers opens up the door for the rest of Astral to surge forward. Petrify coming out from Keegs, and Delnyy actually does find Wolves, who bites off more than he can chew, but oBoronic gets Jumpahhh.
1-for-1 exchange between these two teams, but the Phoenix came with it. That's the bonus deal there for Astral Authority. 3 different sides of fire waves to pour in. This Titan already having lost a fourth of its health bar, and Astral Authority know they are right on the verge of bringing this set home.
They do still have the ultimate from GryphonSlays to try and rely on, and all the relics for their carry so they can feel comfortable. Unlike Crimson, who doesn't have the Aegis or the beads, his positioning will have to be perfect. He wants to survive this engagement and not get punished by everyone who's coming for his life. Chapo, Layers, oBoronic, everyone gunning for him. He has to be careful in the back line. But for now, Astral are falling back. They know the Fire Giant's back up. They want to try and get Wolves back to be a part of this engagement, so they have to wait.
The problem, though, for Flashpoint is that quarter health that the Titan already lost is not going to recover anytime soon here.
It's not,
They
yeah.
might get their left Phoenix back up and running, but that Phoenix has already been exposed 2 times, and I'm sure that Astral Authority are down to bring it back down for another time, because they want as many fire minions in this base as possible. They want to ensure that whether they are looking for the fight, it doesn't matter, because I think they're just going to try to all in on this Titan itself.
That could be the call. Now, it might be a little bit difficult. They don't have that sustained damage that you get when you have like the Zeus's, the Opwash. You can drop the Lightning Storm, the Crips, and then even if they get pushed back, they've already committed all their damage. It could be a little more difficult for Astral, but they have such a lead. They have all the momentum. They are very close right now to be claimed or being crowned as the ones who are the champions of the console wars here at Dreamhack Atlanta, but Flashpoint have made it anything but easy so far.
I like this, though, from Flashpoint. They tried to push up both the left and right-hand side waves as much as possible, since they recognize that those are the 2 Phoenixes that will be respawning first and foremost. So if they can just buy themselves a little bit of time and help from those side Phoenixes, they might stand a better chance at pushing Astral back out of their base.
Several 3K pots, though, on the sides of Astral Authority. They have the defense for Wolves and the damage coming out from oBoronic and Griffin. Keep an eye on all 3 to see if they're shredding even more than normal once they start to make these pushes in. A portal there just as an option to keep Flashpoint scared before they jump in.
Of course, though, Delnyy gonna have to take the front of the damage yet again. It's something that we've seen time and time again, but Chapo's actually getting pushed in a little bit out of position here. This could be a good fight for Flashpoint, but it's turned around immediately through space and time, just chunks.
Left side, Phoenix goes down, and Astral know they have their chance to siege. There's Fire Minions coming from the mid lane. Titan is already down to nearly half HP, but Astral hold off for just a moment longer. They got the left side Phoenix they wanted. They're being very patient, very clinical. They want the right side Phoenix as well. They want minions from every conceivable direction, and to give Flashpoint no hope for a chance to defend.
And we've spent all this time talking about Flashpoint's base and Phoenixes, because that's just been the direct focus, but look at all the towers that are still standing here for Astral Authority. Even if Astral full 5-man wipe here, I'm not sure that Flashpoint can win off of it.
A blink in Cataclysm comes out from Wolves that forces out Beads, and Phoenix down already, and Flashpoint can't afford to stick around here. Their Titan could potentially be under siege once minions start to pour in, but they have a moment. They have some time as Astral fall back yet again. They've got to push up these waves. They're not ready to jump in just yet. This has been very, very patient from Astral so far.
And this Agni is so problematic, though, for Astral Authority.
rough.
Crimson is the sole reason why Flashpoint have still been able to cling on for dear life here in this set. And Delnyy also, both of them are standing at the top of the player damage charts despite having been behind for the entirety of this game.
I don't know what more you could ask for this mid lane performance from Crimson. He's looked great. It just has not been enough up until this point to slow down Astral. From their positioning, it looks like they want to wait on the mid Phoenix to respawn one more time and then burn that one down quickly. And Flashpoint recognized they're here for the defense. Trickster Spear coming out, but the Phoenix, as soon as it shows up, it's gone. But Layers, isolate on left-hand side, falls to Crimson and Jumpahhh's pressure, but oBoronic is able to find the double keegsmate fall falls, as does Matt Koiz. GryphonSlays gets Delnyy, and the door now kicked wide open. Jumpahhh can't find enough of the pull. oBoronic with the triple kill, takes down Jumpahhh as well. It's only Crimson left. Astral storm into the Titan room. They want to be crowned the champs of the console wars.
There won't be any two-time victories here today, and Matt Koiz, alongside of the rest of Flashpoint, is going to be headed home here, but Astral Authority bringing this one in.
Too much gains.
I think Chapo's too strong for his own good. He didn't realize he was a little too strong. No one saw that. No one saw the trophy just break right there. What an amazing set that was.
Going 4 games out of this best of 5. Astral Authority coming out clean, taking out the defending champions.
Yeah, Astrals looked good all year, and they brought all that momentum into the Worlds, and they played lights out, all good games, even the second game. A couple mishaps, but overall they played very well.
They definitely learned, I think, through the beginning of the year, not really winning spring, winning the summer, and now here in the fall.
You have to give credit, though, to Flashpoint Wolves. They definitely played well. They took a game off of them, and even that last game there, Crimson was doing an amazing amount of damage.
Yeah, Crim played incredible the entire set. He dropped top damage like 3 out of the 4 games, and he was probably the reason that FP won the second game and stayed in this game so long. He played very, very well.
That's right. The Zeus in game number 1, Janus 2 and 3, even Agni in game number 4. It made it difficult, I think, for Astral Authority to end the game because they had the Phoenixes down around the 28-minute mark, but this last game 4 stretched beyond 40 because of Crimson.
But look at Astral Authority right there, man. The 7-0 and 6 on oBoronic.
That last triple kill enabled the final nail in the coffin for Astral Authority to raise that trophy and bring it home.
I don't think he missed a single snipe that entire game. Literally, everyone found someone somehow. That's supposed to be a lucky shot, not for oBoronic.
And not just also for oBoronic, but Crimson as well in games 2 and 3. Like both of these mid laners playing lights out on the Janus.
Inbound, something that you said though during the pre-show of it was that Astral Authority here was going to go for, they needed to go for early game again, and they didn't really get that this time around, but they still came out with the win. What exactly happened there?
Instead of playing more for the early game, they kind of farmed a little bit for that Janus. They wanted Janus to get at least that Deso online, which he bought second, before they started to take those fights. Chapo was trying to play a little bit aggressive, but he really couldn't get anything going because they were playing so passive, which is good on Flashpoint to avoid those early scuffles against that Fenrir support. So it was just more of FP playing it very well, and then just, I don't know, Astral couldn't really force too many fights.
And also Wolves playing the Gab. You're not going to really see much out of him in the early to mid game. Once that Gab gets online late game, though, he's just an absolute monster, initiating very well, creating a lot of freedom for Gryphon and oBoronic.
It was really difficult to choose the MVP for this game because every player, it actually took us around like 5-10 minutes to figure it out. But we are going to be giving it to oBoronic, and we have an interview with him right now backstage.
I am here with oBoronic, excuse me, World MVP oBoronic, after that huge performance. Go ahead and take your trophy here first, my man. It's heavy, hold on to it now. Now, the first thing I got to ask you, man, you all have been here once before and fell just that little bit short, and I know it must have been tough for the team. What does it mean for you all to be come back here against essentially the same team and to be able to get it done this time?
Yeah, well, last year I wasn't on the Astral team, but yeah, I've been grinding for forever, man. And I've been, gone in the first round both times. It was rough. But, Astral picked me up this year, and I'm glad I got Layers and Wolves the ring they deserved.
So you all were able to win so dominantly in game 1 and 3. Game 2 was that long, drawn-out match, though. Were you all maybe getting any flashbacks to that game 2 in game 4 when things are starting to get slower and slower down and the defense was looking better from Flashpoint?
Oh, no, we weren't thinking of anything from past games. We just think forward, just think ahead, man. We can't be there, sitting, thinking about the last game,
And what does it mean for you all that you were able to pick up Chapo so recently, only a couple of games in the regular split, and him able to play so well for you? Talk to me a little bit about what he was able to do for you guys as well.
Man, honestly, people underrate him, but he's really helped us just become Smite players, better Smite players. Our comms, timers, everything. He's helped a lot.
Well, I want to get you all out on this, man. You got any shout-outs, anything like that you all want to say after getting this win? I know it must mean a lot for you guys.
Yeah, first thing, I want to thank God for this opportunity. I want to thank my family, my parents, sitting here in the front. And shout out to Astral and all our fans, and yeah.
Well, Astral Authority are your champions for the console wars, but we are not done yet here at Dreamhack Atlanta. The PC championships will be coming up next, so do not go anywhere. We'll be taking a brief break, get everything ready, and make sure you are right back here.
Here with the winners, the champions of this Dreamhack Atlanta event. And last but not least, guys, you have finally made it through a pretty gruesome series with Flashpoint. How are you guys feeling after that one?
We are feeling wonderful. Thank you for asking. I don't know really what to say. Honestly, I don't even know why I'm here for the interview. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
I feel great.
Well, KP, it was you and Wolves in particular that went through this exact thing last year, except weren't able to close it out. I asked oBoronic earlier, and him only just joining this team this year, maybe couldn't speak as much, but what's it mean to be able to win it this way against that team? And either one, you could talk to me about it.
It's everything. It's everything to me and Wolves, man. Last year we were completely dominant throughout the entire year, and the last event of the year, the most important one, we stopped practicing and we weren't consistent in scrims and stuff, so it really hurt to lose last year, but I'm glad we came back and we fixed our mistakes.
And it's crazy to think, because I know you guys had a lot of difficulties finding scrims and stuff leading up to this event. Did that just motivate you guys to want to beat everybody even harder?
Yeah, I mean, they were scrim locking us, but at the end of the day, when you're a good team, and honestly, we just won picks and drafts. We just countered everything they picked, and regardless of practice or not, that's going to help you every time. And I mean, scrim locking us, yeah, it motivated us. I mean, you don't want us to play, you don't want us to win, we're going to win.
And Gryphon, this one's for you, man. I mean, so much talk, I feel like, is around Keegs all the time and how, no one's better than him. But, I mean, in this set, not just as a team player, but in your lane in particular, you look so strong. What does it mean for you to be able to perform this strong as well and show everyone how good you are?
Mainly, it was like when Layers asked me to join this team, I knew what they were capable of, and I knew I just had to fall in the role and, become the player they thought I could. And I think I did that.
Well, I mean, you guys had such a fantastic showing here today, but I'm going to let you guys get a chance to start celebrating your victory. Don't do anything too crazy tonight, though, guys, and just have fun, and congratulations one more time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.